All right, so we have everyone joining in. First of all, thank speakers for input, uh, the time and preparing for this session, because all of us thoroughly gained a lot of knowledge from this. But this is the time wherein people have been waiting for a long time to ask their questions. So let's begin with the first one. This one goes to Dhananjay. How can one implement fallback for Fugu features for older versions of browsers?
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's a very interesting question, and it goes like without saying. Whenever we are implementing a feature which is maybe not supported for a wide set of the browsers devices, it's always a good practice to have a fallback. So generally, what we do at our end, we go for a feature detection, right? So let's take example of I think web share, what I talked about in my deck, right? So say first for we look for the particular Fugu API, whether that API is available as a feature detection. Maybe Navigator is the interface. Via that interface, you can look for the method availability. If it is there, well and good, go for it. In case it is not there, maybe you can have a fallback mechanism. Fallback mechanisms can be as simple as maybe maybe just gracefully degrading it, or maybe you can have an alternate approach. So in case of web share, what we did is we thought, okay, whenever maybe the native web share is not a option is not available, why don't you go for maybe a kind of a copy to clipboard? So that's what we use as a fallback for Fugu features. Hope it clear the answer.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I hope the answer was very clear to the person who asked it. Next. Okay. Oh, all right. This is from uh, Ujjwal. For me, what's the best way to write a service worker? Simple. Workbox. Just go and use it. You'll find your solution over there. It makes it quite fast. So yeah, I guess that would be a very short answer. Okay, moving on to the next one. Well, Saurabh has asked, Prashant, AMP as PWA is an interesting pattern. Any pitfalls or shortcomings for this pattern?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting question. There are definitely shortcomings of this pattern because the code that we are writing using AMP, and in AMP we cannot use any external JS other than using AMP iframe and AMP script. Now there can be use cases where you would want to use external JavaScript. So just imagine that, say you have a travel website, and in the calendar you want to dynamically render the minimum fare for a given date, right? So at the moment, AMP doesn't offer a component. I mean, there is a date picker, but that date picker cannot be used in the flavor which I have just explained. So now that becomes a blocker. We may not be able to use this pattern in that case. Also, I mean, there can be other complex patterns, like say you are planning to use WebAssembly, right? Now you will have to see, can you run it inside AMP iframe? AMP iframe has got its own limitations. It cannot be on top of the fold, for example. What if you need that component on top of the fold where the user is landing? So again, you are hit by a roadblock. So that said, definitely there are limitations when it comes to corner cases like what I have just explained. But for most of the practical websites, like if you browse 10 random websites, probably they won't be using such capabilities. So for most of the websites out there, AMP as PWA should be doing fairly good. So hope that answers.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Atan. Before the next question, did I mention that, if you are attending all the sessions and if you've registered for it, you will be getting a certificate? Yes, absolutely. You heard it right. Okay, moving to the next question. Well, this one's for Ankit. Ankit, did Oyo also use bubble wrap to build TWA, since you adopted it pretty early and bubble wrap came in later?
So no, we didn't use bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is pretty new. We used the standard way, Android Studio, and to give you guys comfort, I am also a web developer, and I didn't have any experience in Android. Uh, so if you start now also in Android world, it will not be a very big blocker for you. So yeah, so Android, we started with Android Studio, and pretty much the same way how Android is written, we have used that. It is just we have to pass the data, or we just have to launch the trusted launcher activity, and then it will take care of everything. It's just the Android shortcuts and a few other things which we have implemented, and yeah, but that's pretty much like an Android code. I think I hope that answers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ankit. Next one again for Dhananjay. What's the next Fugu feature you think your team would love to explore? Quite creative.
Yeah, I think so. So that's kind of a huge list, right? So, and I think when I was going through the list, whatever is there on offer right now via Fugu, a lot can be done. So I think my personal favorite is background sync, right? And I think that can be a very interesting paradigm to use. Apart from that, because we as a company kind of adopted the web OTP pretty early when it used to be called as SMS Retriever API. Since then, SMS Retriever got some initial feedback, and then Fugu team made some more changes to it, and now it is available as web OTP. So I think one thing we have to first maybe upgrade ourselves to move from SMS Retriever to web OTP. Followed with, I think, the background sync would be my next choice where I will be interested. Otherwise, I think this totally depends on your use cases. So I think it depends on subject to subject. So if my choice, I would go for background sync.
Great. So that's one feature. I hope the person who asked this got the answer. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, again to me. What's the best strategy for PWA? Cache first, network first, or stale while revalidate? Any scenarios? Well, thanks a ton for adding any scenarios at the end. The strategy depends on the use case, whatever you are trying to build. For example, if there is an app which utilizes, which has a feature for stocks, now you cannot wait and load from the cache the last stock prices. It has to be network first, so it has to get the latest data. So again, depending on your use case, whatever you're trying to build, you can definitely choose between whatever suits you the best. And obviously, in case you get confused, probably the proper user testing of that could be done. But specifically, I think you would have an answer from the product team itself. Okay, let's move on to the next one. To Prashant, are TWAs available for iOS as well? If no, any tentative dates? That's my question as well.
Yeah. So unfortunately, currently it's not available for iOS. We can just generate APKs, and that can be deployed in Android stores. As of now, there is no tentative date available. But if there is any development on these lines, then probably we can keep the community posted.
Great, thank you, moving on to another question for Ankit. What are the top 2-3 challenges, Ankit, that you see with TWAs?
Yeah. So I have talked about a few challenges in the presentation also. So for the first challenge was WebView as a fallback, because when the TWA was launched, then the Chrome latest version was 73, I think, and it was supported after Chrome 72. So we had to put lots of fallbacks, and when we open the WebView, then we can't use few functionalities like web share. That is not supported in the web view. The call button is not supported there. So we had to put these kind of checks. Another challenge was this splash screen. So when OYO built the TWA app, then the splash screen support was also not there, because splash screen support was available after Chrome 75, and we started building it when Chrome 73 was there. So we need to put lots of handling to support a splash screen when it is provided and when it is not there. Other than that, so let me be frank on the last challenge, which is passing the data from the Android world to the web world. That is only possible via the query params. When we pass the URL to the trusted launcher activity, that is www.oyonews.com and question mark and some query params we can pass. But other than that, there is no other mechanism by which we can pass data from Android world to the web world. So these are the challenges.
Great. So I think that's a very clear answer. Okay, thank you, Ankit. Now, this is an open question to everyone who's there, and since I'm the host, so I'll just put it up. If there was one Fugu feature which you wish was built a bit better to help with more use cases, what would that have been? And any one of us can take it up, speakers.
So my favorite is SMS retriever. That is a feature by which Android people are proud of, and somehow it was lacking in web world, and this will give a very good benefits to web world.
Cool. Anyone else's favorite features? Anything?
Yeah, so I'll just take up the one shot on this.
Okay.
So of course, I think as Ankit has mentioned, Web OTP is definitely a face saver, and I think it is built in a good manner. But one feature where maybe I would be interested to have some sort of improvisation, right, in general. So I see still though the contact picker example which I was talking about earlier. So now we have the first-hand experience where via web you are able to access your phone book. Though what is still there is a big difference between native app and web app is in case of native app you are actually able to maybe select all kind of thing, which primarily is not available in case of when you are using it via contact picker on web. So I wish there could have been some sort of mechanism where user should be able to select all, because practically it is not feasible as a user, right? If you want to, let's say, sync your phone book, for example, in case of GoIBIBO, we have a referral program, or maybe the loyalty program, where it makes sense if you are syncing your phone book, you would be able to get more and more loyalty against that. So practically, it is not feasible for people to select contacts one by one and then kind of submit. So that's something which is on my kind of proposal, and it's on wish list. If this is something which can be improved on contact picker, it would maybe start making much more sense for us.
Great. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's see what's next. How much time does it typically take to build a meaningful PWA? An open question for all of you, because I'm sure you would have gone through it.
Yeah. So okay.
So, sorry, please go ahead.
Okay, sure, Prashant. So I think again it's a very relative question, I would say. I mean, it depends on your use cases. Maybe also depends on the team and as well. So I can just kind of share my kind of experience. So when we did PWA was also in the kind of stage where it was still going through more and more kind of improvisation. It was becoming better and better. So I would say PWA, let's think PWA as a thought process and not as in, that we have to follow a specific series of activities to become a PWA, but just try to grasp the gist behind PWA. What PWA is actually primarily trying to do that, first of all, your mobile web experience should be as good as possible, right? And there are multiple ways to achieve it. Again, depending on what kind of use cases you're solving. So possibilities, as I think Ankit was talking about, no one likes to see a loading screen. No one likes to see a white screen. So maybe you can have some sort of a splash, some sort of a, your fallback pages, so that even if the internet is not available, rather you would be able to serve some sort of static content to your user, and not maybe that internet is not available. So think my proposal is think PWA as a thought process and then aim for it. Once you know what you want to achieve, you will be able to rather build it pretty quick. So that's my take. If I just give a kind of a number, at GoIPO we took almost maybe almost a month to move from our mobile web to PWA.
Cool. Prashant, you were saying something. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I absolutely plus one to the Ninja's comment. One good thing about PWA is that it can be built progressively. So we can start with a simpler experience, and then we can add functionalities, APIs, and then we can end up as complex as the animation I had described. So to build a fairly simple PWA with simple capabilities like add to home screen and a banner offline page, assuming that the site is in a good state, meaning the performance is good, because PWA is not a silver bullet. If the site is not good, it won't bring any good to the any of the practical purposes. So building a simple experience could be very quick, and then probably we can refine it, and we can build something on the lines of caching multiple layers of the pages, and we can improvise on it.
Great. Thank you, Prashant. Any thoughts on it are like really useful. And let's move further. I guess we are moving towards the end. So again, an open question. When I use the TWA, which is AMP as PWA, would my start URL be the AMP page itself? Won't it then lose the benefit of AMP cache?
Yeah, so the start URL will be the AMP page itself. And as it is being served from the origin, we will definitely lose the benefit of AMP cache. But there are two things. Firstly, the page can be served from a CDN. Basically a CDN which is proxying the original domain. So essentially it will be served from a place closer to the user's network, and hence it should be close to the performance that you would receive on an AMP cache. Definitely some benefits like the pre-rendering of the page that you get on the search result page, right? So that will be gone. But I think that is still okay, because the user will be perceiving it as an app launch. And if it is being served from a CDN, and if say a splash screen is implemented, then it should be rendered fairly quick. But yeah, in short, some of the benefits will be lost.
Cool. Any thoughts, Ankit, on this?
Yeah. There is a one problem which is there for I think everyone. Like we have to maintain the two versions of our pages. One is AMP, one is PWA. Generally PWAs become the feature-rich version of our pages, and AMP somehow lags. So AMP as a PWA may still be getting or giving us the good performance, because it restricts us of the use of JavaScript. So still, I think it will give us the performance benefits compared to our normal PWA, where there is no limit on the JavaScript and the CSS which we can use. So definitely, I would try this. And if it solves both of my purposes, then no need to maintain two versions of our pages.
Thank you, Prashant and Ankit. Okay. Again, an open question. Are your users able to understand if they are using your light TWA app, which runs on a browser engine? Like, are they able to differentiate?
I would take that. So we haven't got any comments on the performance of our TWA app. Definitely, we haven't got any negative feedback about the app, but the positive ones only. That I have got the feedback like that user said, we thought that this will be a feature trimmed version of your native app. Then this version of your app will lack features, the important features, but that is not the case. And there are few feedbacks were like, why would someone use the native app? And I mean, users are pretty happy about this app. And definitely, if they have the Chrome 75 and above, then there is no way to understand that this is the TWA app or the native app.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Ankit. And that wraps up all the questions in AMA session. And I can't even tell you how grateful I am for all of you to have taken out time, me and the whole team that has been working day and night to put this event together. And you absolutely are one of the core parts of the team. Thanks a ton for taking out all the time and interacting with the community. And for the attendees, we have an announcement coming up. So just wait. Till then, thank you to all the speakers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Prashant, Dhananjay, Ankit. Thank you to all of you.